Welcome to Mystery Explora, where we delve into the most chilling and perplexing cases from history. In this episode, we explore one of America's most haunting, unsolved crimes, the Villisca Axe murders. In 1912, the small town of Villisca, Iowa, was shattered by the brutal slaying of an entire family and two young house guests. The crime was horrific, the evidence baffling, and despite multiple suspects, the case remains unsolved to this day. This is the story of the Villisca Axe murder. Villisca, Iowa was the epitome of a quiet rural town in the early 20th century. With a population of just over 2,000, it was the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors, and life moved at a slow, predictable pace. But all of that changed on the morning of June 10, 1912, when one of the most gruesome crimes in American history was the Moore family, consisting of Josiah Moore, his wife Sarah, and their four children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, were found bludgeoned to death in their beds. The family had been well known and well liked in the community, making the discovery all the more shocking. Along with the Moore family, two young girls, Lena and Ina Stillinger, who had been staying overnight, were also found murdered. The scene inside the Moore home was horrific. All 8 victims had been brutally attacked with an axe, their faces left unrecognizable. The killer had covered the mirrors and windows with cloths, perhaps to avoid seeing their own reflection, or to prevent anyone outside from seeing in. The murder weapon, an axe belonging to Josiah Moore, was found in the house, wiped clean but still covered in. The discovery of the murders sent shockwaves through Villisca. Neighbors gathered outside the Moore home as word spread, unable to comprehend the horror that had occurred in their peaceful town. The local law enforcement, unprepared for such a gruesome crime, quickly found themselves overwhelmed. The investigation began immediately, but the crime scene had already been compromised by curious townsfolk who had entered the home before the authorities could secure it. Evidence was trampled and potential clues were lost in the chaos. The police, along with several detectives from nearby cities, worked tirelessly to piece together what had happened. They determined that the killer had likely entered the house sometime after midnight while the family was asleep. The attacks were methodical and savage, suggesting a level of premeditation that shocked even the most seasoned investigators. Despite their efforts, the investigation quickly hit a wall. There were no clear fingerprints, and the small town was not equipped with the forensic tools needed to solve such a complex crime. As days turned into weeks, the case grew colder, and fear spread through Villisca like wildfire. Over the years, numerous suspects were brought forward, each with their own potential motive for the murders. One of the most prominent suspects was Frank F. Jones, a local businessman and state senator who had a personal grudge against Josiah Moore. Moore had once worked for Jones but had left to start his own business, taking a valuable contract with him. The rivalry between the two men was well known in Villisca, leading some to believe that Jones had orchestrated the murders out of revenge. Another suspect was Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher who had been in Villisca on the night of the murders. Kelly was an odd and unstable man, known for his bizarre behavior and fixation on the case. He even confessed to the murders at one point, but his confession was inconsistent and likely coerced. Kelly was tried twice for the murders, once resulting in a hung jury and the second time in an acquittal. Yet another theory involved a series of similar axe murders that had occurred across the Midwest in the years leading up to the Villisca case. Some investigators believe that the Villisca murders were the work of a transient serial killer, possibly connected to these other unsolved cases. However, without modern forensic techniques, this theory remains speculative. Despite the many suspects and theories, no one was ever convicted of the Villisca axe murders. The case grew colder with each passing year, leaving the town of Villisca to grapple with the terrifying possibility that the killer was someone they knew, or worse, that the killer was still out there. The Villisca axe murders left an indelible mark on the town. The Moore house, where the brutal crime occurred, became a place of fear and morbid curiosity. Over the years, it fell into disrepair, but its dark history never faded. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the house being haunted, with reports of strange noises, cold spots, and even apparitions. In the decades following the murders, the house became a magnet for paranormal investigators and thrill seekers. Many who visited reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and unease, as if the house itself was still steeped in the violence that had occurred there. Some even claimed to have encountered the spirits of the Moore family, unable to rest until their killer was brought to justice. The Villisca axe murders have also inspired countless books, documentaries, and even films, each attempting to unravel the mystery of what happened that fateful night in 1912. But despite the many theories and investigations, the case remains unsolved, leaving behind a legacy of fear, speculation, and unanswered. As we look back on the Villisca axe murders over a century later, impossible not to speculate on what really happened. Was the killer someone close to the family, driven by jealousy or revenge, or was it the work of a wandering psychopath, striking at random before disappearing into the night? The lack of closure has kept the case alive in the public imagination, with new theories emerging even today. Some believe that modern forensic techniques like DNA analysis could finally solve the case, if only there were enough evidence left to test. Others think that the truth may never be known, that the Villisca axe murders will remain one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. The Villisca axe murders continue to haunt the town of Villisca and the collective consciousness of those fascinated by true crime. It's a story that raises more questions than answers, a puzzle with missing pieces that may never be found. As we close this chapter of Mystery Explora, we're left with the unsettling realization that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved. The Villisca axe murders is one such mystery, a dark, chilling reminder that evil can strike anywhere, even in the most peaceful of places. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you're as captivated by unsolved mysteries as we are, be sure to follow Mystery Explora for more stories that will keep you up at night. Until next time, stay curious and stay